Well, good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you are joining me. My name is Jill, and this, insert applause here, my 10th anniversary. I think when I'm recording this, it's tomorrow, so it's hard to believe it's been 10 years of travel in a little tiny trailer, of being more than 10 years online with you guys. And I wanted to just take a moment to take a deep breath with you through the nose. A couple of you asked questions. I'm going to answer that, and I'm also going to stay tuned. Deep breath. See you on the other side. My one place in the world. This is 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 my one place in the world. Because I love you. I love you. I love them way more than they love me. All right. So I really wanted to do something special for this video, and that is just not going to happen. I just don't feel good. There's no other way to put that. So I just have not been able to escape the heat and the flies and lack of electricity and all these other fabulous things that I've been trying to claw my way through for these last couple years. But this summer has been just as challenging as the winter. I should really do a totally off-grid with extreme heat video, maybe someday. But today, we're talking about 10 years in a tiny trailer, 10 years living without a home, basically, any permanent place, and more than 10 years of, that's an interesting effect there, right? More than 10 years of being online with you. And I think the number one question is, would I do it all again? And boy, I would give anything, right, to be able to go forward knowing what I know now and starting over. But they say, you know, that's just what life is all about. So in this video, if you've lasted this long, I just want to review a little bit about what I've learned online and what I've learned about this type of life, and then answer the couple of questions. And so the number one thing I think I would like to say is I would never undo this experience. It has been so wildly eye-opening for me that I can't give you like a top 10, because it's been endless and evolving and refining of who I am as a person. And both out in the world, physically learning how to survive and live in a different way in a harsh environment, completely contrasted to the urban lifestyle that I was born and grew up in. You know, I've done everything. I've lived on ranches, I've lived on farms, I've lived in the middle of nowhere. I have been in small towns, I've been on the edge of large towns. I've lived with all kinds of people. I've experienced all kinds of things that you just would never know. I am not a traditional nomad the way you see in a lot of these RV videos if you are new. The reality is I don't really like that lifestyle. I kind of did it for the first couple years, but I didn't have much enjoyment of that. And it was never about the travel for me. It was about the experience and wanting to share stories and have different ways of being. And I left with the idea that I would do it for a year, and then I would find my home and I would settle back into that home. And, you know, I pointed myself towards New Mexico because I don't think I've ever said this before, but I had seen a video of wild horses in northern New Mexico, and something just lit up inside of me, and that was where I was headed. I have spent the last 10 years trying to find a way to live with horses. I have a couple times in the very beginning, but whatever it is about people who own horses, I do not mesh with their personalities. I've never been able to find a good, stable place with people who had horses. I've met a few really awesome horse people, but you know, all the visions I had about working with a nonprofit or a rescue or horse equine therapy, all these different kind of horse programs that I wanted to be involved with, it just never happened. That was just like a big dream. You know, I left with this idea I was going to do homesteading, and I realized after working on a few places, I just don't have it in me. I don't have the energy or the strength to do a full long day, day after day after day, and still do all these other things. And so it's been this sort of endless cycle of experimenting with different ideas and with different prospects, and you know, it's been excruciating, I think, for those of you who have watched, and like, what is wrong with you? But I never went into this to travel. I never went into this to be a YouTube star. I never went into any of this to do anything but my own personal experience. And some of that I've shared with you, and some of it I haven't. And it's been a really unique challenge. I think one of the most fascinating pieces about this, though, is when I left, I was trailer trash, right? People just didn't pick up and live in their trailers. Tiny living, nomad, RV life, all that stuff hadn't been born yet. It was just on the cusp of, you know, that 2008, 9, 10, you know, I lost my house in foreclosure, and all these people who were losing their homes, you saw this push then to go out, and that was also the birth of YouTube. So it was a kind of a meeting place of a different way of living, and then it gained popularity for a couple reasons. One, it was a financial necessity. I did it initially just as a better way to go find a new place to live and recreate that old life, because this life wasn't really a possibility or a thought in my mind. But I think the other thing that's happened is there's been a romanticizing to all of this, and how like this travel nomadic lifestyle is somehow super fabulous and super fulfilling. I got really bored. What happens is you just continue to meet people and share that same story over and over and over again. There just wasn't enough substance in it for me. And so, you know, I have been thrashing around trying to find a way to have meaning. Traveling wasn't enough. And so that's when I kind of parked and focused more on what I could do. And in hindsight, that really became the internal journey, not the external journey. And it also began in 2016, where I really moved into the creative aspect of filmmaking. You know, when I left, YouTube was brand new. I had my little $150 camera, and my background, I actually have a film degree. I never used it, but I used it for a little bit. But I did Hollywood for a little bit, got kicked out, never went back. But I was doing stories about other people when I started, and that was what my travel was about. I kind of would go to different people's. If you look back at the old Jill's journals from 2011 and 12, those were really me about telling other people's stories. Well, in 2016, I think Casey Neistat was just getting really successful, and I thought, well, maybe I could vlog. And so that first almost a full year, nobody watched my videos, and it was awesome. Because nobody was watching, I could be as wildly creative as I want. And in hindsight, that is actually my favorite time. Those are my favorite videos. They were my favorite creative experience because I didn't feel any pressure from anybody about anything because nobody was watching. At some point, I think in late 2016, all of a sudden I started to get some traction. I mean, I went from like 300 subscribers to 3,000, and it was the RV stuff. And so I thought, okay, well, let me focus on that. I tried to do that. I got super bored, and I crashed my channel. And I've been in a kind of ongoing state of, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Because YouTube has pigeonholed me into such a tiny little box. For those of you that don't know, the algorithms, they want people to watch your videos, and so they keep trying to identify who are your primary viewers, and mine has evolved into 70 to 80% of my viewers are men over 60. You're not the demographic I was looking for, and so I've been in this constant battle trying to break out of this very narrow demographic. It's not that I don't like you guys, it's just that you don't like the kind of videos I want to make, and so I've been just in struggle and conflict about this for so long. But the good news is, as I'm crashing my channel again, and YouTube is about ready to go away at any moment, right? It's kind of freeing me up. So we'll see, what comes about from that. So it's just been a really interesting experience about seeing yourself in video constantly. As a therapist, I've learned more about myself watching myself create video, my own feedback mechanism, and my reaction to all of you. I've learned way more about myself than I would ever as a therapist, working with a therapist. I've also learned a lot about people because people from all over the world contact you, so it's been a really interesting experience. I don't have anywhere near the views anybody else has, but I have over 500,000, people watching at some point of my videos. And when you think about that, when I started, 30 years ago doing workshops, if you had 10 people, right, 20 people, that was like a huge success of working or meeting with people. Now, we've just got people who've got millions and millions and millions of views. It's such a fascinating exercise in human behavior. But I digress. So, those are my big takeaways. I think the big question I would have, and I've asked myself a lot, if I knew now what I knew then, would I put my life online? And probably the answer is no. The only reason I started to focus on myself in 2016 with the vlogging was I didn't have anybody else to take pictures of. I didn't want to travel. I was, in mountain air. There wasn't much that was close by, so travel would have been extensive and expensive and a hassle, and I didn't have any real focus on what I wanted to do, and so I just used myself as a subject because that was all I had access to and nobody was watching. If I had been smart, which I never am, I had done the RV stuff when I first left, I would have been one of the successful people because there was just very few doing it at that time. But again, I just didn't have any awareness that that was going to be a thing, and I didn't have any interest in that being my thing. Story of my life. I'm always out of step. So I would not put my personal story online, but I think that this format has infinite possibilities that we just didn't know about, and we're still learning about the way it all works and what you would do with it. So that's kind of where I'm going to go from here. I have some really clear ideas about what I want to do, both on and off YouTube, but as I move into, it's August now, in terms of reality checks, winter's going to be here like that. And I can't, as you know, I can't physically stay where I'm at right now. So what I am most focused on in this August of 2021 is where I'm going to go next. And I've been trying to stay in this area. Nothing's clicking. So I can't tell you where I'm going to go or when I'm going to go. I can only tell you that that is going to be my main focus right now, is trying to find a next place to go, because I can't live in here without being prepared for winter. And that means wood and some infrastructure that I need to have a set location. I can't travel, and I can't drive with my wood stove up, and I can't carry, a cord of wood with me, that kind of thing. So that is my next focus. I have some ideas, but you will have to stay tuned to see where that goes. So that's kind of my quick summary. Obviously, there's more to the story, and if the world doesn't fall apart and I ever get the time and I can devote some energy to writing this all down, I still would really like to write a book about it. This time in the desert has been fascinating, and that is one of the questions. One of the questions is, what 3 things have you learned in the desert that you wouldn't have learned anyplace else? And there's 2 things that were my primary focus. One was survival. Can I survive in this world? Because it's very difficult for who I am as a person to survive in the normal world. I tried, and I just I can't do it. So my question was, what does it mean to survive as a human? And I've really been exploring that. How simple can I get? How much can I do for myself? Just all this stuff has been what I've wanted to know. And you can do that in any environment. So that doesn't answer your desert question. But the second thing is the spiritual piece. That's, the reason I get up in the morning, right? What is the truth? What is, who am I? Why am I here? All these questions. How do I save the world? All these questions that have been driving me since, in my dreams, as young as I can remember, at 12 or 13, I'm in the library with books. It's just been a constant push in me for so long. And I think, what I really like in terms of terminology is wilderness spirituality. And I really like the stories of the desert mothers and fathers. I think that best describes my experience. But I think there's a difference in the type of environment you go into. And so that would be the answer to the desert question, is that every environment, I think, elicits a different response. I think the forest wilderness spirituality experience really is a healing, one with nature. I see a lot of what I call them the forest fairy girls who are making the videos that I had imagined in my mind, and they, of course, are being quite successful with it. But anyways, so I think there's the ocean, I think there's the mountains, but for me, what I think is profound in the desert is the starkness of the contrast, the harshness. Every environment has harshness, and I think probably in a Arctic situation would be the same as the desert, harsh cold, or that's vastness. What I've learned just from coming to Arizona, from being in New Mexico, is I must have the open space. I just feel so claustrophobic. Even here is really beautiful, but I need that wide open space. And that's one of the things I think that's different. For me, I was thinking the other day that the desert allows me to see great distances, so I can't hide. I think that's a very important lesson. You can't hide, but it also allows me to see what's coming. And I think the ability to see what's coming is more important for me than to be able to hide from what I think may be coming at me. So I think that's something that's been specific to the desert, because before, when I was in the mountains, you were secluded and enclosed. Here, for me, I like to be able to see everywhere. The second thing is the vast amount of elemental demands. The wind, the heat, the lack of shade, the harshness of the desert. I mentioned in the last video how I did not expect to become so hardened. When I left from what I call my mountains in the monastery, you can see in my videos, I have a naivete about me. I'm still kind of soft in that I've had all my creature comforts. I had electricity, I had plumbing, I had baths and showers and food and refrigeration and neighbors and stores and easy access. Anything I wanted, I could drive and get. This experience has been harsh. It's aged me tremendously. It is, it's caused some health problems. It's still causing some health problems. It has been rugged and harsh. And I think the desert climate is more specific to that experience had I not been in such a vastly elemental. But I think that speaks to the spiritual component, and that is who I am. I am hard ass. I'm not hardcore, hard road. I always want to do it the hard way. I don't recommend it, but that is ingrained in my personality. And the third thing I think that I've learned in this desert is it is not for everyone. I have thought this in my head. You know, so many people make videos trying to convince you that their way is the best way and you should be a nomad, you should do this, you should do that. I would not recommend this environment, this journey for anybody unless you are super dedicated to looking in the mirror and having everything stripped away, you know, laid bare. There's no hiding from yourself when you're online. There's no hiding from who you are in extreme climate and extreme dangers and extreme experiences. And what's really different, and nobody will get this unless you've been doing this, is it's just not a vacation. It's not camping. It's day in and day out, day in and day out, a decade of day in and day out. And you don't get this on a retreat or a sanctuary or a camping trip or even, you know, a 6-month travel. There is a relentlessness to this process that has taught me about survival that I don't think I would have ever gotten had I not put myself in this situation. So while I'm super happy I have had this experience, I don't know, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It's been really, really hard. But it's been mine, and that's all I can, you know, really say about that. So those would be the things that I would take away from this. John asked why I haven't done some kind of retreat where you guys can come and meet me. And the reason I haven't done that is I've only met a few people from YouTube, and I don't do well. It reflects what happens to me in real life. There's just kind of a, you know, when you watch somebody online or in a movie or whatever, even online dating, a picture, you have this false sense of who they are. And one of the things, there's two things I don't like. One is this kind of a defeat because you're never who that person wants you to be. But for me, it's always been like that. Every time I've been with anybody about anything, there's always a, you're not who I want you to be. And that's because I'm not. I am so not who people want to be. But the reality around that is it's very difficult for me to be in other people's energy. And any level of expectation makes it super stressful because I am so empathic and connected to your energy. You know, I always know what's going on with somebody within, even when they're not admitting it to themselves. And the constant strain between reacting to who they are internally and who you are, what you say and do, it's very disjointed, which is why I love animals and nature, because they're constant. There's no conflict in their energy. Humans are so contrasty and conflicted. It's exhausting for me. I can hardly be around it. So it isn't something that I like. It's not something I enjoy. And to be honest with you, because of this demographic that I have, while there's really awesome people, there's also a very predictive pattern that goes along with people that watch. And they don't watch because they're interested in my videos. They watch because it's for other reasons. And you know, there's a reaching out, and then there's you know, going away. There's a lot of traffic on my video. I don't retain people the way other people do. I have consistent numbers in that it's always a cycling of new people in and out. And that's true in some ways, but because of the specific demographic I have, it isn't what I'm looking for. So I've said that, you know, the only way I can have friends or ever be involved with anybody at this point in my life is if they've never watched one of my videos, because it isn't who I am in real life. One guy, I forgot who it is, said, you know, I just watched all your videos and I am fascinated with all your different online personalities that you've created. Exactly. There is so much contrast in what I put out. It's got to be exhausting for you guys. I can't even believe some of you have continued this long, but I could never sustain that in real life. And once my guard is dropped, Just ask the dog. It's a little bit scary. I'm just not who people want me to be. I'm not who I want to be. And I guess that's true for all of us, but I think the kick for me is it's so exhausting for me to be in other people's space. And if you add that to the expectation of who they think they're meeting, it just doesn't work. And so I just never do that because my numbers are too small. There would be so few, every once in a while somebody asks me, and it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to you. It doesn't feel good to me. And I just think, why did I do that? So I don't do that. And I'm not teaching. I don't really do this to teach. What happens is I end up explaining, and I never wanted to teach. I just explain, and I want to stop explaining. So that's that. All right, so we've been going a really long time. That's just a little bit about my 10-year anniversary here online and in the trailer. And I think that it's time for a pivot. We'll see what happens. It won't be in the next video, but hopefully sometime soon, because winter is coming, and regardless of what I want to do and what you want to do, snow is not your friend if you are not prepared for it. So that is me saying a super big thank you. I'm sorry that this wasn't full of all kinds of exciting visuals, but honestly, I've made well over probably 600 videos. I've taken a lot of them down. And if you really want to get a backstory, you just are going to have to go back and look through some of the videos, and you can see some of my various personalities, and you can also see some of the places I've gone, and you just never know where I'm going to end up. So with that, my friends, thank you for sharing this time with me. Thank you for all your support and encouragement. For those of you who just stick it out for whatever reason, and it's not over, but it is going to have to change because I can't stay here. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I can't stay here. So with that, have an awesome day, and I will see you next time.